Jai Hind and welcome to Dev Talks. This is Aadi. What are the Chinese threats to India? Everybody thinks it's on the border. Is it really on the border, or is the Chinese giving us a feint? A new word that we will introduce into the geopolitical lingo. Some of us might know about it, some of us don't. We only talk about Chinese other attacks when a cyber attack actually takes place on aims. But the rest of the times, we forget it. To discuss this, we know we've got General Ravi Shankar with us, but he's someone who's been talking about it, who's been telling us that there is more to Yangtze, there is more to Ladakh. Sir, hello and welcome, and nice to have you with us on this new year.
Thanks, Adi. At the outset, a very happy New Year to you. Uh, I wish Dev Talks, goes from strength to strength as it has,
Thank you, sir.
uh, right? And hope 2023 is good for you. I also hope 2023 is good for all our viewers.
Yes,
Wish you the best. In fact, my best wishes even goes out to the Chinese and Pakistanis who are in trouble. I have no problem with the people. Okay. Uh, but then I'm an Indian, so I'll always root for India.
yes, sir.
Uh, and I'm right. Having said this, it's been my conviction for the past 2 3 years that China and India are systemic rivals. They're civilizational rivals. Uh, okay, it's the what you're talking of, what you spoke of, is only a manifestation of a larger issue
Thank you,
which is
sir.
going on, right? Tangze is just a pinprick in this, or not Tangze, Yangtze is just a
No,
pinprick in this whole story. Okay. Um, in India, we have to look beyond that, right? I've also written that look between Taiwan and India, India is the option, in my way of thinking. We've discussed about this also. Xi
mm,
Jinping has a marked problem with India. That I'm very clear because his problem, or rather, all his Chinese incursions against India have started ever since he took over in 2012. If you see,
yeah,
trace the right,
trajectory. Mm,
yeah, trajectory of the cross-border incursions. Every time there's a summit, something happens. You know, right. Then there's a issue of India is rising, China is falling. Relatively, the gap is closing. People might say, "Oh, that's a $17 trillion economy. You're just a $4 5 trillion." That doesn't matter. The gap is closing on many issues. It's slow, but it's going to happen. It's
mm,
a matter of time. So they will all these go to this thing. These are the motives by due to which Tangze is just a uh, eruption of these motives or indicator of these motives. But they're going to be more. And whatever happened in Yangtze is not a one-off affair. It's only in the military domain, in the land. It could happen in the sea. It could happen in the air. It could happen in economics. So there's a multi-dimensional issue to this whole affair. And I'm glad you picked this up on the new year, like because all I think all Indians should know what is in store for us.
indeed, sir. I mean, we only speak about it when something actually happens. And I wanted to take this subject up when nothing is happening. We've gone through the Ames
Correct?
attack. We've gone through the Agni missile test. We've gone through another missile test, and so on and so forth, and nothing. I mean, things are kind of calmed down. Wang Yi said that let's talk and let's sort this out. There's a new foreign minister in China. They're looking inwards, but it's still the right opportunity for us to discuss this. Where would
Yeah.
you like to
No,
start?
no. Yeah, I have a few slides. We'll go through them so that everything is in perspective, and then we can discuss.
Yes, sir.
See, let's look at the overall way the PLA operates and China operates. Now, Xi Jinping gives strategic guidance and that guidance drives the operational concepts of PLA. Now, as per this, PLA must win. That's what he has told the PLA must win informatized local and regional wars at present and win intelligentized wars in the future. This is he's given it almost in writing. In
Hmm.
any case, he's put this in the report also, the 20th Party Congress. Now, as per China, war is just not a confrontation of opposing military forces, but it is a contest of political, economic, diplomatic, cultural, and other forces. They feel that future wars will be full dimensional, right? That what is full dimensional? In addition to land, air, and sea, there will be electromagnetic spectrum, information, AI, psychological, space warfare, cyber, and all other domains will be used. Now, when you use war in or go into war in these domains, the conventional time spans constraints on military operations that it starts on a day and finishes on a day is going
Hmm.
away and be replaced with integrated joint operations at national level taking place over a broad range of time and space with highly integrated forces, correlated events. Now, the
May I
Chinese
request
also
you?
believe,
I'm sorry to interject, sir. Can
yeah,
you just bring that out a little further? So highly integrated
yeah, we'll
forces
get
and
it.
stuff like
Don't worry. We'll get back to this business of time and space and broad range of
that. Yeah,
activities a little
it's a
later.
little
Okay.
heavy, so I thought we'll
Yeah,
just
I know we'll explain this.
yes, sir.
Now, they feel that combat space is the phase where physical warfare takes place, whereas war space is unlimited. It is huge. It is also war space is something which goes over to physical and non-physical domains. That is political, psychological, AI, space. So that means, and you look at it from the previous one where I said broad range of space and time with highly integrated forces. So the time constraint is no more there. That means it is always there. War. China is at war with us. Let's be clear, China is at war with us in a full dimensional basis using all domains. Now, the next thing is interesting because it is from here you get the theory of multi-domain war, which and then you identify where what China is doing in each domain. Their emphasis is not on annihilation of enemy forces. Your army is not their aim. Their navy is not their aim. It is not to annihilate enemy forces in the combat space, but on disruption, paralysis, destruction of the adversary in the larger war space using kinetic and non-kinetic means. They're at getting at India through all means. They're looking at comprehensive dominance so that the enemy loses the will and ability to resist. Ultimately, they don't want India to resist whatever China does.
Hmm.
That's the thing.
That's the main thing. Yes, sir.
That's the main thing. And there's a book of unrestricted warfare written by Kyo Liang and Wang Jiangsu. This was written at the turn of the century. Now those theories are being applied here. Fundamentally, this book was again how to defeat America. But now I see them being applied universally across their major adversaries. And let's be very clear, India is their major adversary. If you sit in America, people will say, oh, they're against us, and Taiwan is the focus. If you sit in Japan, Taiwan might be the focus. If you sit in Australia, Pacific might be the focus. Okay. If you sit in Taiwan, Taiwan is the focus. But I'm in India. I view things differently.
Hmm.
And I'm very clear. From my perspective, India is the focus. Taiwan could also be the focus, but it's India. So they're
Primary.
applying all this. Yeah. And that is why they're using gray zone tactics.
Hmm.
Okay. And gray zone tactics, set the stage for conventional thing. Oh, okay. Let's see what this business of multi-domain operations is. Now, in the Chinese context, multi-domain operations can be defined. This is my definition. No one has put it. Can be defined as conventional and or non-conventional. So it's conventional and non-conventional war carried out by state, non-state, or state-sponsored actors. Now, non-state doesn't always mean terrorists. It could be multinational corporations are also non-state actors. I mean, if you look at it, NGOs are non-state actors, international bodies are non-state actors, regional corporations are non-state actors. Okay, by state, non-state, or state-sponsored actors using
Mhm.
hard or soft power during war, conflict, or peace situations. It's happening, isn't it? By day or night for specified national outcomes in various interacting and overlapping domains. So this is what it is. It is many domains. That's why I call it multi-domain operations. And these can operations can be overt, covert, or in the gray zone. Everything. Okay. Now how does it put it? I had oh, this is gone. Okay. Now that whole thing is not coming,
And then
unfortunately. Yeah. Can you pull it out from my article?
I'll do that. So why
Uh,
don't you continue? I'll do that.
yeah. Okay. Uh, I'm sure if you go to the article which I written, that
I'll
picture
pull it
will
out,
come
sir.
up.
Why don't you continue, sir? Give me a
Yeah.
second.
Now you look at it in the conventional domains. The first set of the conventional domains are air, sea, and land. So in the conventional domains, you could have a direct threat and conventional aggressions through air, land, and sea. That can happen. China does that in Ladakh and in South China Sea. But as far as I'm
Yeah.
concerned, the LAC is a political system for them. They approach it politically. It is not grabbing land anymore. Their incursion into the South China Sea, Indian Ocean region, right? Uh, that Yuan Wang which came here. All these are all actions in the conventional domain. It could be direct. Indirect is they could approach you through Pakistan, Nepal, Bhutan, Myanmar, or Bangladesh. And we've seen it happen.
Hmm.
Okay. And they are using Pakistan and Nepal as cat's paws. Pakistan to direct. Even Nepal, when they did that Lipu Lake thing last year, Kalapani and all that,
Mhm.
year before last, they were using these two countries as cat's paws. Then they're even coercing your neighbors. They want Sakteng from Bhutan so that you can be outflanked at Tawang. They want a port at at Hambantota so they can sit there. Or in Myanmar, they want a port at Kyakfu. So all these are all the indirect pressures. Direct
Hmm.
through the LAC, indirect through all these places. Okay. Now let's look at some other domains. I call this the disruptive technology domains. Could you get that thing?
Yeah. Loaded, sir.
Yeah. Yeah, put that if you can, then we'll get back here.
Yeah, it's just uploading, sir.
Okay.
Here we go.
Yeah,
Here we go.
this is it. Yeah, this is it. Look at this. This is the whole thing, that whole thing which I spoke of, right? You from the top, air, land, and sea are conventional domains. Space, cyberspace, nuclear, and electromagnetic spectrums are the second set of domains. Okay, these are the technology domains, and
Mhm.
then the energy, resources, politics, diplomacy, and economy. They are the traditional domains through which statecraft is uh, conveyed. And then, of course, you have public opinion, legal, and influence. These three are the three strategies domains of the three strategy warfare is fought through these domains. I call these the dark domains. Okay, so this is how it is. So let's get back to that. Okay, now we are talking of the disruptive technology domains. Space. Now, China considers space an investment. They are searching for liquid hydrogen and power for fuel cells and attain energy dominance. It's a quest for new materials for them. And they have a vibrant space and civilian aerospace system, which is an enterprise activity to make money. They're also developing satellite and anti satellite technologies. Okay, they use space to influence ops. You remember way back they beamed a Chinese map through the space. The Yuan Wang came to monitor your space activities. Then they're using space-based nukes. That's what they. I wrote an article also about it. That they want to go and put a, low yield at near space. So they're militarizing space. They're using space for many things. Okay. Then they're using the cyberspace and electromagnetic spectrum very actively. Look, these cyberspace and electromagnetic are clubbed in this because they are interactive and interdependent domains. We know how many cyber attacks they've been doing against India, USA, Australia, many more. Recent AIMS attack. Okay. They're going big on AI, communication, ICT technologies through their civil military fusion. They're looking at profits, control over government, all these, social media, surveillance, intelligence collections, and data collections. They're big on big data. Their mobiles, they all filter back their apps, the Chinese apps which we have banned. In fact, India is one of the only country which has banned so many
Actually,
Chinese
the
apps.
only country. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, these two domains, cyberspace and electromagnetic, are key domains because they
Mm.
underpin Chinese domination on other domains. If these are not their problem. Then, of course, they have this nuclear domain which they're operating. Now, nuclear domain, one has to understand it's not confined to nuclear war alone. It is also proliferation for geopolitical control. They've done it through Pakistan, they've done it through North Korea, now probably Iran with their latest strategic partnership. We don't know. Then there's also they're forming their own nuclear grouping. They're
Mm.
now latest thing is they're upping their nuclear arsenal. They're building new silos. They want to go up to 1,000 warheads at least. And then don't forget that China has been blocking India from the through the nuclear supplies
Nuclear
group so
supply.
that you don't get essential nuclear raw material. Now there's a deeper connotation. You don't get nuclear raw material. You don't get enough plutonium. That means, you see, we have we are the biggest repository, or we have the maximum resources of thorium. Now, thorium cycle is a safe cycle for nuclear energy. And if India gets into the thorium cycle, we'll get strategic independence of energy, something which people don't know. Okay. Now, but to kickstart the thorium cycle, you need plutonium. So, if you don't have plutonium enough, you can't start the thorium cycle. And you will not get enough plutonium if you don't have fundamental, uh, the nuclear suppliers groups denies you raw material. And that's what China is doing. It's deep. How many people know this? Okay. Right. Then there's the traditional domains. When China was isolated and poor, it was always troublesome and expansionist, even in the last century under Mao. Today it is rich, ambitious, so it will be even more troublesome. And in the current conditions where it is seeing India as a competitor, you're going to have hell. I mean, let's be very clear about this. Now, political domain. What is the political domain? You're going to have a problem with Dalai Lama when his
Yeah.
succession. They're coercing Bhutan. Okay. Then, when politically, all their incursions, I've just highlighted one, but many more. All intrusions have happened when Xi Jinping was here or Li Keqiang was to come. All are premeditated political moves. They're talking to you in one direction and doing something else. It's all political pressure on you. Okay. Now, when you look at it, the military aggression in Ladakh over the past 2 years, it's not one incident. It has happened in eastern Ladakh. It has happened across Sikkim, Doklam, now Arunachal Pradesh. Now you expand it into the South China Sea, Hong Kong. All these are all political moves. You have to view every Chinese military move politically. Okay. Yeah, you have to remember, it was Mao who said, war is politics with bloodshed, and politics is war without bloodshed. Okay, people don't probably know this, but this is what he said. And so everything China does is political in nature. Now you look at how they are waging war economically. They have done economic intertwining and dependence through the BRI, which means that the countries who are trapped, debt trapped, have to defer to political requirements of China. Like they're now, Sri Lanka is doing. They're pressurizing Sri Lanka to allow. If you remember that Yuan Wang incident, where India said they shouldn't come, Sri Lanka said delay it. They said no, we'll not. We'll come. They came because politically Sri Lanka was weak because they were debt trapped. Now today your trade imbalance with India with China is very adverse. It's only increasing. So if that is happening, your commercial dependency on China can be weaponized any day now. Okay, if they reduce or tighten export controls, which they might not because they need to maximize their exports. But tomorrow, if they decide to do that, things are in a problem, isn't it? Then, of course, there's this Chinese wolf warrior diplomacy, which we all know. They're capturing international organizations. They want to get control over UN. You look at the way they have manipulated through the national, your nuclear supply group. Okay, Azhar Mahmoud, he has not been designated as a terrorist. The way they support Pakistan in all international forums. Okay, so all these put together, there is a diplomatic war against you going on. Again, if you remember, they had this um part two of that, not part two, that Indian Ocean region forum in which they didn't call you last month. They held that. And then, of course, energy and resource exploitation. They're using water as a weapon. Okay. Internationally, if you look, they're getting minerals and oil resources from Africa and South Africa. South America through BRA and debt traps. Against you, water. They're going to deny you energy resources. If you remember, I mean, many people might forget it, might have forgotten. 2 years back, 3 years back, they ensured that you couldn't do oil exploration in South China Sea, even when you got a legitimate lease from Vietnam.
Vietnam.
See, one should not, if one has to see this multidimensional uh, or rather multi-domain operations over a longer time period. That's what I was telling you. You said it's a heavy thing, broader space over a wider
Borders.
time.
Mm,
So
mm,
you
mm,
actually have to go back in time and then see correlate events and fit it into this. It is not retrofitting. If they fall into place, then you see a design coming out.
mm.
Mind you, these operational concepts, I had written about it last year. The multidimensional operations, if you go into my website and just type multidimensional operations or multi-domain operations, MDO, you will get about 6 7 articles. They go back to 2020 or 21. Okay, so there is a lot of thing which this thing. Then you look at the three war strategies: public opinion, legal status, and influence operations. This is a continuous process. Now, these three domains convey political intent, and they prepare for other domains to succeed. And this is three war strategy is a well established and published three strategy of China. It's not of the PLA. As far as public opinion is concerned, They weaponize public opinion by manipulation, misinformation, sowing dissent, discord, and democratic success, which they do with us. They also shape domestic and international public opinion through media, military experts, and political parties. They're Confucius institutes. They look. Let me give you one personal example.
Hmm.
2 years back, I suddenly got a thing in my mail. They offered, they invited me for a seminar in wherever in China, full expenses paid, door to door, that I could come and talk on some nonsense, whatever it is. That's the kind of a thing, public opinion. A lesser man might have gone because it's a free trip in a five-star hotel there and 4 days enjoy life, and they'll ply you with everything and send you back. Then you talk China. I'll go to this extent. Look at some of our China experts. No, I'm not joking.
No, no,
I'm not
no. I mean,
being.
it's not a laugh of jokes. It's a laugh of reality, actually.
It's they talk as if China is the only country. It's so
And
strong. It's doing everything. And then they'll say, "Oh, where are we? We are idiots." All that X, Y, Z. So they build this halo. They shape domestic and international public opinion through media, military experts, and political parties, which I've said. Then they build the halo to project invincibility that no one can touch them. Then there's a legal thing. Everything is legal. For example, their claim of Arunachal Pradesh started after 2003 when you signed a treaty with them. It never existed. South Tibet never existed anywhere in history before that. Right? Now there's a legal status for them to have a claim where they're now portraying themselves as victim. They're also building a thing called Zhangzhung. Have you heard of it? Now, Zhangzhung is supposed to be a kingdom which is pre-Buddhist, pre-Tibetan, which is Chinese in origin. So that means entire Tibet was Chinese well before Buddhism came. So now they'll go back to what the theory of evolution to man was prehistoric. He was Chinese, and that entire thing started in Tibet. So Tibet is Chinese. That kind of a legal
yeah,
story narrative.
cartographic work.
We spoke about narratives.
Yes, sir.
That's why I said legal justification through mythical history. Then they'll accuse you of breaking rules. Even in this Yangtze incident, what are the narrative which came out? Oh, we stopped Indian soldiers from coming into our territory. Okay. Then they'll exploit legal loopholes of democracies. You look at the Sterlite plant 2 years back.
Hmm?
When the Sterlite plant was operational, you were an exporter of copper. When the Sterlite plant was closed, you had to import copper. From then to now, you are importing copper. And from whom? From China. How was it closed? Legally, through legal loopholes. They played the difference between the state government and the central government. They played the difference between the state government and the local people. And that Sterlite plant was closed. If someone tells me that Sterlite plant was closed because of Indian issues, no, I don't agree with it. Invariably, the targeted countries are left with no choice but to accept the Chinese fait accompli. I've given you one example. Same thing is happening with Sri Lanka. Same thing will happen tomorrow with Bangladesh, which is going under, which is going under political problems, which is going because this government is, they'll use the instability to further it. Okay. Then they have this great thing called influence operations. Chinese narratives are being built through planned politicians, media, and officials. Hindu newspaper regularly comes out with full page advertisements about Chinese achievements.
They wished Xi Jinping all the best when he got
I don't know. I
re.
mean, I'm not saying that Hindu is anti-national or we are a democracy, but there's a problem because probably the Hindu newspaper is a bit anti-establishment. It has got its own views. We allowed it in a democracy, but they're exploiting it. Think tanks, academic institutions, workers' union, industry, government penetrated to influence thought. And you look at the communist parties of India. Has one chap ever condemned China? In fact, I've seen, I won't say seen, I've heard on TV communist politicians taking China's side
What happened
and
in
saying that we've
62,
done
sir?
wrong. No, no, fight 62. I'm talking of now. I'm not talking of something which is absolutely old or something. And then, like I said, they exploit your plurality and fissures in the political and bureaucratic firmaments because they know there are enough of us who are communists. That's good enough to create chaos. China will always ensure that either a wrong decision is taken or one that favors it is taken. That's been their thing. So this is what they're doing. And they're using the health domain also. We all know health is a new domain I've added. Okay. They have weaponized health. We know it. Mass diplomacy, yeah, whoa, everything. Not only mask, they also went through vaccine diplomacy. Of course, that's a different thing that they're now got it back. So you are, yeah, that's all I think. You can take it off. If you want, you can put that thing back, that, the diagram, so that it reinforces.
Yeah, sure.
Right. And if you see, India has to be prepared to fight a multi domain war against China. I have no doubt on that. If you mean to rise, and you will rise, it is inevitable, be prepared to fight in all these domains. Yangtze is one. Now, the point is that, okay, today you push them off at Yangtze. That's in the land domain. The thing is, the retaliation could come in the economy. It could come in the nuclear domain. It's not necessary that the retaliation will come. So the next Yangtze or the next criticality could happen in Hambantota. So an action of yours in land can be retaliated at sea or through public opinion. If they can initiate an action somewhere, and if that is blocked, they'll open some other thing. So at any given time, if you notice, you are under some kind of conflict with China,
Some type or the other.
something or the other. It could be through state, non-state, or state-sponsored actors, which I've shown in the left. As it could be by day and night. Day and night is more military in nature. War and peace is more geopolitical in nature. The means could be hard, soft, conventional, non-conventional, gray zone, salami slicing, all these nonsense. These are all jargon to fit into this larger business which is happening. And how you do it, see, I think we can take it off and we can discuss anything more. Now we have to understand as a nation that you are under this kind of a issue. I've written about it 2 3 times, and again I've reiterated my talk now, or my writing now, or what we did say 2 years back or a year back doesn't change because this transcends time. It's timeless. They want to chip away at India. Okay, this is the content of my. How you going to respond is a game plan which has to be done at national level.
I think the short intro that I gave is, uh, you've kind of brought it out with a lot of evidence of certain incidents with regards to what we were talking about, that the war is always not on land, or when a Chinese ship comes through you know, through the Bay of Bengal to try and spy on us, and that's something that we've kind of been used to. That's
Yeah,
because that's what they want us to think
yeah.
as a
You have to think.
population.
Yeah, I agree with
Yes,
you.
sir. So they want us to think there. I mean, a lot of the times the battles used to be on land because they wanted us to be away from the seas. Today they're coming on land and sea, and of course probing here, there, on the air. They're getting their responses. There's no question about that, and we're not discussing that. I mean, the responses have been super awesome, precise, hard hitting. There's no questions. But these are still the threats. They
See,
might have lost the first round. They'll come back in the next one.
they'll come back and see the thing here. This is where this business of comprehensive national power comes in. If you look at the comprehensive national power and its application on air, land, and sea, they'll not succeed. But applying it on others, they'll start chipping away. They'll
Hmm.
start chipping away at your strengths. They have money to invest, they have influence to invest, they have power to invest. How do you, handle that is the Indian challenge. Let me put it how. I mean, the way I look at it, I've given you a few examples in each domain. I can give you one or two examples in all domains. Like you rightly said, in the military domains, it's easy to get more, but even in other domains, you can get.
Hmm.
Now, I think we need to benchmark actions in each domain. Okay, in this domain, this is what they'll do, and this is what is acceptable to us, this is what is unacceptable to us. So if it becomes unacceptable to us, you need to hit back at some other domain. You don't have to respond in the same domain. You can block them in that domain and hit back in another domain. How you hit back is your question. Okay. How you, it could be through a third country. As much as they can use a third country, we can also use a third country. Okay. And it's not necessary that you have to hit back at them through Pakistan, or even Pakistan, hitting Pakistan is a effect on China.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
can use Vietnam, you can use Taiwan, you can use Japan. So you can do what you want. It's not as if we are not doing. We are doing. I mean, let's be very clear. We are doing a lot. For those people who feel that China is going to overwhelm us, it's not going to overwhelm us. We are too big for them to swallow. We are a competitor. Remember that. Uh, so, but you know what? To contain China, you have to do something. Your Indo-Pacific construct in which you joined, after all, you joined the Indo-Pacific thing, the whole
Quad.
story, Quad, has come up only in the past 2 years. 2 years back when we started, we didn't have Quad. Quad came up later. So all
Hmm.
these are part of containment of China. You have to contain this animal. There's no doubt about it, right? So this is what I had to say. Any questions, we'll take them on, and any questions you
Matter of
have, we'll
fact, yes,
clarify.
sir. Yes, sir. Guys, let's just hit on into the questions and comments, because this is a large subject. For those of us who are not initiated into this, it may seem a little, uh, overwhelming, if I may. But understand this, that this is something that is a part of our lives. We see examples of this kind of stuff happening all over again and again and again and again. So we need to kind of recognize them, and we need to kind of first of all understand them before you even start doing that. Apart from that, if I may, sir, take the liberty of adding what you said. It's not that we don't react. It's just the fact that we don't know about it, and the better it is that we don't know about it, because these are things that, of course, I'm not saying that the Chinese are, Xi Jinping is beating his chest in China saying, "See, I attacked Ames." It's not going to happen. So
Yeah,
let's
that'll
be
never
kind of,
happen.
you know, we have to understand it in that particular perspective, and that's just something I thought of, and you
No,
kind
I
of,
agree with you. You have to be aware. That's why I said you have to benchmark.
yeah,
If
yeah,
all of
yeah.
us start benchmarking, look, let's put it this way. I've given you a diagram, right? Set of concentric circles. If 10 of us are aware, you might be a legal expert, I might be a political expert, someone else might be an economic expert. If each guy consciously says, okay, this is the thing which is happening in my domain, I benchmark my domain, and someone gathers all our inputs and says,
That's the
you're
whole
creating
picture.
benchmarks, huh?
That's the entire
Then you
picture.
start your, yeah, someone, look, again, uh, I'm very proud of India. I'm very sure that, the government is doing it because we have a capable government at the end of the day, and we've had always had capable governments. So, we, uh, what shall I say, then have a game plan to handle China. There are a lot of, you can criticize the government for many things. You can criticize the government, or you can advise the government for what it should do. But I think the government is doing something about it, that I don't have. Here, the thing is, how are we helping the government to do what it wants to do? As a, as a
Citizen.
common citizen, for a simple thing, if I have to, how, other day someone asked me a question, how can I help, uh, you know, India in fighting this multi-domain war? The only answer I get, yeah, Chinese mal mat kari. That's your
Big
small
step.
contribution. If all of us contribute a little, the will of the people will prevail, and it will help the government. And you know, right? So this is it.
Say no to see no.
Yeah,
Let's get into the questions, sir. Of course, Naveen, thank you so much for your contribution. General sir, China seems to think of war as total war over all domains possible. Is that in that light, are there cooperations happening between nations, USA, Japan, Australia, France, over these domains?
yeah. You look at the Quad. You look at the Quad charter. Quad doesn't have a charter, but they're working on economics. They're working on health. They're working on technology. They're working on military. Though everyone says so, Quad is not a military grouping, but essentially, if you look at the what is it called? Quadrilateral security
Security dialogue,
dialogue. Okay, what is the maximum activity which is happening? Naval exercises.
naval exercises,
What, even army exercises are happening.
and that too
So one we had,
anti-submarine exercises, all the
yeah.
things.
So it's happening. It's not as if people don't see why it's happening. Also, it's, you have to understand, all these strong nations, Japan, Australia, India, and USA, have the capability to go to war at China. Going to war is not the issue. Maintaining peace and containing China and preventing war is the major issue. We, we don't have to bash each other's heads really and die, and people coming to misery. The whole aim of war is, look, the whole aim of militaries is not to create war, it is to create peace.
Deterrence.
Yeah.
Thank you once again, Naveen. In the world of multi-domain operations, there could be inter-domain effects. Having the same person in charge of the politics, military, Congress, etc., seems like an advantage. How would you compare that to democracies?
Yeah. Now you're actually, Naveen, you asked a bigger question. How do you compare an autocracy with a democracy? Even democracies fight multi-domain wars. It's not as if they don't. The problem with the autocracy is it has no feedback. It doesn't know what it's doing. There is a halo effect. You think whatever you're saying is the only right thing. You don't have a opposing view. You don't have balance. Autocracies invariably lose balance. You look at China. It was out and out totalitarian outfit under Mao. It started going away when Deng Xiaoping, Hu Jintao, and Zheng Jiemin were there. Some kind of, I wouldn't say totalitarianism, but a, a diluted autocracy or a privatized autocracy came in. Now this man is taking it back. Okay, he's finished off private systems. Dissent is finished. And he's packed the entire Politburo with only his yes men. Sooner or later, they'll start committing mistakes. They will, and they'll pull China back. Okay, will that happen in a democracy? It'll never happen. It balance. You might go slow, but you will reach there. On that, let's not have doubts. Democracy, and mind you, contrary to what many people think, the democracies can be quite venal in the application of power and politics.
Yeah.
And okay, uh, so don't rule
Very.
out. Yeah, and when
I,
four people think it, you get better results. It's not
I
one
was just
man
about to
thinking;
say,
it's four people thinking with four greater inputs. Okay. For example, in USA today, there's a bipartisan clarity that TikTok should be banned.
hmm,
They are on their way to ban it. Who banned TikTok first? India. Democracy. Overnight. And no one, you you might have a lot of opposition in democratic opposition in India. But did one person say TikTok should continue in India? No. So because at the end of the day, all parties are very clear that China is a threat. I mean, you have to look at it beyond the normal. Yeah.
between the US and China, who has greater presence in the non-conventional domain?
Look, everyone has a presence in the non conventional domains. Okay. It's a matter of how you have a presence where this thing. But look, let's look at it. US has been a great power for the past century. It has much more presence.
Yeah.
Today you're talking of space. Let's take space. China is exploiting space. Yeah, all that. You have to remember, uh, USA manned space missions went to moon in 60s,
69.
long
Indeed, sir.
back.
There's no question. Yeah, yeah.
They're far ahead of the loop. They have gone to Jupiter also. Okay, everyone was talking of fusion energy. If you remember, about 1 year back or so, everyone said that look, China is producing an artificial sun through fusion and all that. Actually, if you read that article in detail, what China did was a result or an experiment as part of the international CERN experiment on fusion. The CERN experiment is continuing, but where has fusion first been done on Earth? USA, Livermore, recently, just last month.
Mhm.
It's the first laboratory experiment on fusion successfully done. And it's done independently, not as part of an international system. So the US presence is huge. I mean, China has to look at it, even conventional domains. How many bases does US have all over the world?
800, sir.
How many does China have?
Two.
Okay, two. तीन भी बोल लो. So there's a difference.
I mean, and taking Cambodia and Djibouti.
Yeah. So there is a
Right.
huge difference. How many people trust USA and how many people trust China on many domains?
I mean, you won't trust China, but in certain aspects, you will trust the US. There's
Yeah.
no question.
I mean, if you don't trust the US, when you say trust the US, it's you don't trust the politicians. Do you trust the system? You have to.
Yeah,
Otherwise, the dollar
of
is
course.
not an international Why why is the dollar today is the international currency?
Exactly. Exactly. True, sir.
Trust. You trust the systems. Will you accept UN as a international currency? Never. Why? There's no trust.
Yeah,
And this trust comes out of the systems. It's not a matter of Xi Jinping or you don't trust this Chinese system. As simple as that. Yeah.
that's
Look at it.
indeed.
Look at it from another viewpoint. How many Nobel Prizes has China won? You can count them on your fingers.
That's true,
System.
sir.
Yeah.
So we are at about 50. We've got quite a bit of comments. Can we just run through them with
Yeah.
an opinion? Does China have? Does India have a
Does India have a
China
Hmm.
doctrine or policy, irrespective of political party in power? Continuing policy after change of governments in USA. What doctrine?
look? Every government has a. I mean, I'm very sure that the government of India has a doctrine against China, which will now hereafter go through. Whether you like it or not, it doesn't matter which political party comes. India cannot, and India is strong. It's got its own institutions which give continuity to government doctrines, irrespective of the
Mhm.
political party in power. And that's there in big democracies. Most of the big democracies have a doctrine. Look, the doctrine could change. If China changes, the doctrine should change.
It's an
As
evolving
China is
thing.
becoming more aggressive, look, in the past 20 years, China was not as aggressive as it is today. You had a different doctrine. China has changed its stance, you go have a different doctrine. So everything is flexible. You have to understand that. Yeah.
China does not care who's in power in India. FII, the one China line was dropped during the UPA's time after the staple visa stunt.
Yeah, I agree with you. That's why I said there is a continuity across the board line. The government of India takes steps based on a situation. Okay. What John Doe has said is right. See, we are dealing with country to country. The political firmament or the political dispensation of the day uh, might color that doctrine to a little level, but
They won't.
generally, yeah.
I mean, they won't win elections if they go against
I mean,
the
in against China, I mean, as a rule,
not
your
against China.
doctrinal,
I'm just saying against national
yeah,
security.
national interests. At the end of the day, every political party wants to further the national interests of their country.
Yeah, it's a two-way street
Yeah.
at the end of it. So even I see OTT platforms show more Chinese movies than Hollywood movies. YouTube also regularly shows videos praising China CCPS suggestions, while I should be profiled as anti-China.
No, no, it's not so. You have to also understand YouTube and all that. They want to show China as a pure competitor because they're all US based. So then they have something to rail against, some competitor, someone with whom they can compare themselves against. It's only in that respect. But you have your own space. I have no problem. Look, this is the China again. Here we should not fall into the US public opinion trap. After all, US has got a tremendous method of influencing public opinion and creating its own influential
We
thinking.
can see what's happening
It
around the world
influences,
right
yeah. So if you look out of all those prisms, you'll find you have to develop your own, and you are there somewhere. It is not as if you're not there, but are you actually focused on it? Uh, Not from a government perspective. The common man, the common organization, the common businessman, is he focused on it? That's the question. And the government alone can't do anything. The government is of the people. The nation is of the people. You and I have to do it.
now. Indeed, sir. What is the level of penetration of China in the non-conventional fronts within India? Are there any domains where both US and China collaborate in destabilizing India?
I don't see collaboration between US and China to destabilize India. On the other hand, I see collaboration between India and China, India and USA to contain China.
He's still there.
Yeah.
Uh, one. Yeah. IMO could be wrong. Quad is dead. Much more forest formation from the Democrats in the US toning down on Quad, asserting AUKUS. India is restricting it to economic activity to put the nail in the coffin.
I think Raptor, you have misread the whole thing completely. AUKUS is 10 years away. When, by the
Actually, the
time a
opposite.
nuclear submarine comes, huh?
I think it's complete opposite of what he's written.
Opposite. God is today. So
Quad
you have to
necessities.
read. Yeah, you have to read beyond the obvious to see where things are.
Quad is a
Yeah.
necessity, and that's something that I think which has been brought out by multiple levels, and not just by us,
Yep.
by the other partner countries as well. So it's an interesting grouping, if I may. It's, by the way, the Chinese are pretty much spooked with the Quad. They don't talk about the AUKUS. They're
Yeah,
more
yeah,
spooked with what's
yeah.
happening with the Quad.
They're more worried
So,
about the cord than the AUKUS.
and by the way, every time the Chinese put out a statement about India, Quad has a mention there. So that
Yes.
tells you the kind of focus that they are putting onto Quad. So it's
See,
something that we need
cord
to
and AUKUS are the two sides of the same coin. I've written an article about it.
yeah.
They're two
We've
sides of the
discussed it
same
also.
coin. Yeah, we
Yeah, we've
discussed it
discussed it
also.
one. CCP can afford to do all these things against us because of our bureaucrats, politicians can't see beyond local elections. There are a number of ways decimate CCP designs within a democratic means.
Saibal, I'll agree with the second part of your question, but not the first. It's not as though politicians and bureaucrats just go for local elections. They're aware of what things happening beyond. There might be certain compulsions during elections, but beyond that, I think we are okay.
And certain, there are always exceptions to the rule. So
Yeah, yeah,
I'm sure you'll be able to list out some people that will say, oh, this guy did that. Fair enough, point taken. But generally speaking, yeah. Sir, correct me. Is it? It will be impossible to challenge China in every domain. Only traditional and dark power domains we have to think about. After that, it'll be easy to counter other domains.
I no, I don't think you can view it in a segregated or a disaggregated manner. You have to respond in all domains, and you have the power to just respond. It's not as if you can't respond. You can do many things. Look, you have Buddhism, you have religion, which is your greatest power.
You have the Dalai Lama.
Dalai Lama. This you. I mean, I, this is my opinion that India has some tremendous potential and power. We have to untap it. We normally somehow are not tapping it. Anyway, that's a different story.
So, but the reason I was putting these questions, there are a lot more, but I was putting this out for a basic question that I wanted to ask you, and I have two more that I will put across. But this is something I want to ask you. Just because we don't come to know what are the counters that have been done to China and for valid reasons. I mean, it's not that Prime Minister Modi needs to come out on a Man Ki Baat and say, "Aaj humne Chinese ke saath ye kiya." It's not going to happen. So, I guess there is a bit of an unnervance because of a certain part of our history where we kind of toiled back and played the Chinese tune. Uh, so I mean, it might just take a little time for people to understand that these things happen at a certain place at a certain time, which is not supposed to be
Yeah.
divulged. So, what would you say to that, sir?
Well, I'll agree with you. There's no doubt about it. You don't have to uh, keep going about beating a drum.
Yeah,
You do things the normal way. You have the you have tremendous strengths to play with. Um, the fact that you're a democracy itself is one of your greatest strengths. Okay, so I go with you. That's all I can say. There's much more to India than just these
meets the
domains.
eye. Yeah, of
Yeah.
course, of course. I mean, we see the land, sea, and the air. You don't see what we are doing in cyber.
Otherwise, yeah.
And I don't know if you would remember, sir. When the protest started, one of these Chinese mainstream, I forget which one, had said that India and US are fueling the protests within China.
Ah,
So
yeah, they're stupid guys.
just the sheer factor that they put this out, that
Look,
tells you that they consider it
I'll
to
give
be a
you
threat.
I'll give you two examples. You
So,
take South China Morning Post. I read it daily. Every day there's some story about India these days. It could be derogatory, it could be XYZ. And
most of them are
today,
showing the growth.
in Indian drugs are the most sought after in China. You are influencing things already, and that's being reported in. So don't think you're not doing what you're supposed to do. Your strength will automatically play out. Yeah,
Guys, my request down. I mean, I'm not working for South China Morning Post, but please do log into it once a week or once in a couple
yeah.
of
Have a
days.
look at it. You'll get a lot of
You guys,
masala out of it.
it's a lot of fun to kind of read the other side's newspaper as well.
Yeah.
Super General, sir, thank you so much for enlightening us. We need to use our information technology power and the youth in the future to pierce inside their political system to make them engaged internally.
Thank you.
That's an interesting comment, I must say, sir. Uh, yeah, this is the last one I wanted to take. China is playing with the whole South Asia. Today, Asia from South Korea to India has been created as an option for the West's dominance in all domains. China is destroying that for its dominance.
No, I don't think so. I don't think that
It's
moment
not,
has passed. Maybe what Kaushik is saying was okay a couple of years back or at the beginning of the pandemic when but not now. I think China is struggling. To be very frank, China is struggling. In my view,
and
this China is struggling.
the last one. So this is of course I think the crowd's favorite. How can we hit the CCP back?
Again, I use this thing. Just lay your hands off because China is on an auto destruct mode. Where yeah, you have Xi Jinping who's destroying China. Why do you want to go and put your finger in between? Let him do what he'll sort out China. I've always you remember we've always said that Imran Khan and Xi Jinping are Indian favorites.
India's two best friends. Yeah.
Yeah.
Look at what he said in the New Year's this thing, and that's something. Guys, please read the readout of what he said in the New Year's. He says great challenges lie in front of China because of the COVID crisis. At his level,
Yesterday I
he's
put
saying we are in crisis.
yesterday I put out one article on which I no, it's not an article, it's a compilation of stories. It's called Peek into Everyday China. I put it out once in a week. Have I would request all of you to see that every week. It's a headline from South China Morning Post. What did he say in 2014? New Year's message: China dream is going to come. That China dream has vanished. You read now.
Now it's all the great
2020, he said strategic gains defeated COVID. 2023, what is he saying? He's saying something different. You read through that. You read through the headlines and you see how the China dream is evaporating. And all thanks to Xi Jinping. Happiness. चलने दो उसको. May he live long.
long and prosper.
And he should be at the helm of affairs in China. He'll destroy China. Thank you.
That's what I'm saying. He should live long and prosper in the
नारियल
goal that
फोड़ो
he
उसके
set
लिए.
out for China, no one else. He
Yeah,
should set out the
yeah.
goal. I mean, jokes apart, guys. I mean, this is a very serious thing. As a matter of fact, look at what's happening within China, and you can actually get a picture. What Sir has highlighted, and it's not to scare you. I think a lot of us have kind of gotten a little this thing. It's not to scare you, it's to educate us that this is what is happening.
Yeah,
It's
this is
not
what.
that the government and the establishment are not doing anything about it. So let's be rest assured. There's a lot which is happening. Aims is the attack we know about. What about the attacks we don't and that were prevented? And sir, you would agree with me on that.
Yeah, I agree.
So there are gaps, of course, and there are gaps in every country.
Look, the whole idea of all this talk is not to demoralize each other. The idea is to educate each other to see what we can do, and don't think we are not doing enough. We are doing a hell of a lot. I can assure
And
you that.
sometimes just not doing anything at the right time is also doing a lot.
Lot, yeah.
So
That's very important. What Adi said is very important. Yeah.
So let's just keep it at that. Trust our system. We're growing. We're not, in regression. We're doing well for ourselves, and there are a few gaps. We will cover it. Just share the factor that today we are talking about these things, which we wouldn't have about 2, 3 years ago, shows an improvement in our own thinking. Sir, thank you so much for helping us bring that thought process change, because it's critical we understand the threat before we start talking about countering it. And probably sometime in the future, I'd request you to kind of joggle a little bit of a session where we can talk about countering these kind of threats and seeing what else can be done. It's something which is, of course, a very, very interesting subject to all of us, because we see this stuff happening in front of us. So thanks so much, sir. And guys, before I sign off, like the video, subscribe. Thank you so much. By the way, Dev Talks is now closing into 8,600 followers. I hope to hit 10,000 by the end of January. So please help me out, spread the word. Great talks, Dev Talks. Sir, thank you so much. Until next time, Jai Hind.